Let me ask, like, why do you guys think that people get so hung up on this question?
Yeah. I have a couple thoughts from where you were talking to that, I think, a little bit. Because you're talking about, like, people don't, it's very, first of all, it's very cultural. I would bet that you don't run into this problem so much in a persecuted church context, just by and large. Because,
probably even like reach back 100 years, maybe not even 100.
Well, so Kevin
years.
DeYoung, I know you're going to talk about Just Do Something.
That's all right. You can.
But in that book, he talks about it a little bit. Like, I think it's in that book. He asks his grandpa, like, "Hey, like, so how did you know that you were supposed to do this and marry this and do that?" And grandma's like,
"What?
Huh?
Yeah, right.
Like, I just did what I needed to do to provide for my family. What are you talking about? Like, so yeah, you go back just a couple generations, and it's a completely foreign concept because it's just like, well, you wake up. You put your pants on, you eat breakfast, and then you just do the thing. Yeah. Like, that's right. It doesn't have to be hard.
It's just broadly, like, in our culture, I mean, like, what are we asking sophomores in high school? What do you want to do when you get to college? What degree are you going to major in? Where are you going to go?
Sophomores in high school, we ask 5-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
We like talking about brainwashing our kids. Go back and watch a few episodes ago. Like, we start at 5. What do you want to be when you grow up? So what is that? Like, we make it fun, right? Like, oh, you want to be a firefighter, astronaut? We put these cute pictures up on the screen. Sure. We do whatever. It's fun. It's good. It's in good, like, humor or whatever. Yeah. But on some level, we're like training our kids to view life through that worldview. Yeah. Because like their worldview is being formed as early as 4 years old, right?
Absolutely.
So we're starting to tell them, hey, what you should be thinking about is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And so is it any wonder that now we have 20-somethings, like, all my life, people have always asked me, what am I going to do with my life?
Depressed because they feel...
Because they don't know the answer. It's like, we did this, like, or I was, 10 or whatever, 20 years ago. But like, so we're perpetuating that, and that just occurred to me, and I'm uncomfortable with the ramifications of that.
Like, hang on.
Just like thinking about, like, with my own kids, like, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Okay, so how many times a week do we ask them that? Just like because it's fun to Grace and say, I'm going to be a rock star astronaut and start like playing guitar with the space helmet on. Well, I always tell them about Brian May, the guitar player for Queen, who obviously an incredible guitar player, but he also has like a master's in astrophysics, and he helped solve some sort of like problem that like the British space agency had like 5 years ago or something. And they were like, hey, can you help us solve this? And so anyway.
He came in, he's like,
right.
We understand.
Transcendent. But no, like we're programming our kids from a very, very young age in the name of like being cute. Like, hey, here's what you should be thinking about, and here's what actually matters is what you're going to do with your life.
I think, like, to not push back, but like agree and maybe add to is like, because I agree, like, people are just ingrained in this Western society. Like, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What's your career path? Are you going to be successful? Yada, yada, yada. I think, though, there is some level to, there is freedom that just people haven't had, but to be able to pick what they can do. Right. So like, it's not all bad. I just think like you need to teach your children at the same time, and the younger generation at the same time, that there's not one right answer. I think that's the key, where it's like people so often think, okay, if I pick, like, that's why I picked. Like, that's the only right answer for me. That's the only thing I'm interested in. That's all I can do. That's all I can find my fulfillment in. And I think that infects like younger people in the church too. Yeah, what you were
There is a right answer, but it does not lie in the choice you make.
That's good.
It is whether or not the Lord is honored and glorified in what you're doing.
Yeah, because that's like the crux of the whole conversation. Really, again, that book that you're going to talk about more is like, doesn't matter, honestly, as long as you do what God's asked you to do within that. We also bind our identity into that, and so it becomes like an identity aspect. Like, oh, well, I don't know who I am if I don't. And like, think about whenever you meet somebody for the first time, I find and I hate this question, and I still do it because I haven't thought of a better one yet that's not like weird or goofy because it's so normal in our culture. But you go to a kid's birthday party, you introduce yourself to one of the other dads. Hey, I'm Cameron. Hey, you're so and so. Like, hey, it's nice to meet you. Hey, what do you do? Yeah. And then now we're talking about work on a Saturday at like the park, right? Last thing that anybody wants to talk about is more work on their day off. And that's all that we can figure out what to do because on some level, that's like all that we know that matters, which is not great.
Sure. Yeah.